book off Amazon. I was allowed to get this book on Amazon, and I want you to know how it feels being targeted. Okay, reading this book, there's fear. I feel like in the slavery times, how when their life would be threatened for them reading. That's how I feel. The reason being is because in Hill County there was issues with using the library. They would not let me go to the law library. They scammed and kept putting me on hold. And eventually, when I got it, they demanded that I use a computer. And there was intimidation and bullying. Diane Hammer was eventually arrested for the abuse that I don't know exactly what transpired, but I did experience abuse there. And she was eventually arrested. But since then, I don't know of any accountability for all the madness I endured. Multiple different other parties. When I was reading a book, I had inmates that were controlled in jail that would give me books, and then when my abuser was mad, when I incriminated jail staff, or when there's something they did was inappropriate and they were upset, then this inmate would take the book back that I loved. It was a Christian book, and it was really motivational. And she took the books that I are important to me. I've been robbed of. So multiple different false arrests. They're robbing me of any opportunity to use the law library and have actual access to the regular library. So they give me approved reading, and then if I enjoy it too much, then they'll rob me of that. So I've watched like different programs, and that I had glitches and hiccups trying to watch. Like I tried to watch Surviving R. Kelly, and then I kept having hiccups, like someone was preventing me from watching it. So finally, over my sister's house, I finally, because she had the subscribe to a location that multiple different locations that had this playing. She had multiple different subscriptions, so I was allowed to watch it. But then the police came and interrupted me watching it. Well, the police came, interrupted me watching other things too, and making reports. So then in Fort Worth, I was reading a book and hysterically laughed, and they did a shakedown and took all my affirmations and paperwork off the wall, snatched it all down. I kept a diary, really detailed diary and affirmations, and they snatched it all down and tore it up to shreds. They ransacked my cell to smithereens. They had me on lockdown. I couldn't go out. I didn't go anywhere. They scammed that a closet was a recreation room and wouldn't let me outside. And so I was trapped, and the mental damage that this does. And then they would taunt and mistreat me in Tarrant County. They left me in jail with time served. So I laughed hysterically reading this book, and then they did a shakedown and took the book that they should not have observed that I was reading hysterically, but they did in a cell alone and took it. They left several other books, ransacked everything, and a couple different things came up missing that I used. And in addition to that, they deprived me of the law library access, regular library access. They demanded that I have this card of control books, and that wasn't really what my things. I wanted to be educated on law, different things like that, and it was withheld. And motivational things. It's a long story. That was the same thing that happened at Frank Crowley. I never saw a library there for all the different false arrests I had there. I keep saying Frank Crowley, but it's loose theory. I've never seen a library there. And I heard the inmates went to the library. I was deprived of it. And the only time that I ever went to church was in Hill County, and they scammed that they had a special church for me to exclude me. When I went to church, there was a lot of people that like me. My abuser gets infuriated of relationships. Just, I mean, to an extreme, and it's a massive amount of power. So he ends all relationships, even casual. I'm illegally monitored, and he is disturbed by any relationships that I have, even with my own children. So, nonetheless, that to combat that these people like me in this environment, what they did was they set up a special church with people that I didn't know in Hill County. So it was this big group of people, but they scammed that they left people out of my tank that saw what I experienced and that liked me in this tank, and we were all in isolation. I got threatened, and they put me in isolation and malice and rewarded the inmates that threatened me in Hill County. So the people in the tank would know me because I yell out and I do things to people. I'd ask them if they were okay, if they had a meltdown or something that happened. And so the people liked me. So what they did was they had everybody else in the isolation tank, even though we were isolated in our own cell. They let them out to go to church, and all the people that I knew, they had one church group for them. Because it's a crime to do this, so they strategized that it was full. And then they had a group full of inmates that I never met that hated my guts. So one particular strange inmate said, "Nobody will sit next to you. I'll sit next to you." But this inmate would yell out things that I wrote in letters that she should know about. But I knew that it couldn't be a connection because no one could control inmates. This is ridiculous. So I just blew it off that, she's not taunting me about letters, so she don't know about the letters. Because I made had grammatical errors in my letter, and she would like taunt me from the grammatical letters and say things that I said in letters. And then I gave myself, no, that's not possible. So I just wrote it off. So nonetheless, that the church that was isolated, all these people hated my guts that I never met and would sit next to me. And she said, I'll sit next to you. They don't want to sit next to you. I said, I don't know these people to not want to sit next to me. So then they scammed after that we couldn't have the church. So that was, we covered Hill County, we covered Frank Crowley. Well, I keep saying Frank Crowley, Lou Sterrick, and we covered Tarrant County. Del Valley, they had the same con that we could not go to legal library. They said it shut down and put me in my cell if I asked too many questions about it. They put me in my cell and on lockdown if I asked questions about my case. So they are the law library and regular library. They said it didn't exist. So the books that I got were from other inmates that were approved reading. That's the only option that I had. And then they scammed and tried to say that I was not eligible for a tablet, which means if you're in jail on false charges and lockdown and corruption, tablets is priceless. That this is traumatic to be in that experience, and it plays games with your mind. So nonetheless, that they scammed that because I was mentally ill, I couldn't have a tablet. I forgot his name. I put all this information in the upload, and YouTube took it down. It had names, the grievances, and everything. And YouTube said that I couldn't report it, so that's where all that went. But nonetheless, I told him that I said, "Do you know Diane Hammer was arrested, and she was conspired with abuse there?" He promptly gave me a tablet. That when my abuser was mad, like when I incriminated the staff, or when I did a grievance, or wrote something in a letter, my tablet wouldn't work. Then I reported the tablet. Then they scammed that they had to take the whole tablet and not fix it. And they couldn't give me a replacement tablet. They had to do repair work on that tablet. The policy was if the tablet was glitching to issue me out another tablet and get that repaired. But in their scam, they had to send my tablet off and it had to be repaired that way. That way I wouldn't have access to the tablet in Malice. So then I got the tablet back after this extended amount of time, and then it still did the same thing. In addition to that, they would scam that they can't find my tablet multiple different times. So all the inmates could safely put their tablet up and get it back. My guards would scam that it's lost multiple different times, and I did grievances on several different guards scamming that they couldn't find my tablet. So not only was it going off on a whim, that they also used scheme that they couldn't find it multiple different times. These same officers would scam that I can't find your tablet, so I can't give it to you. I don't know where it's at. So in Del Valley, I took a really big stock in this book that was on woman empowerment and how to be a better representative of yourself and brand yourself and different strategies you can take. And I really took a liking to that book. And they did a shakedown and eventually took the book. They strategized that they were doing a shakedown, and then they took the book in the shakedown. It wasn't with my property, and then they said they didn't know, and multiple different other items were taken. So typically, inmates are in jail. When you're in jail, it's really you want to. They use the stability in cells. You meet friends, and it's traumatic for inmates to move cells. They use that as punishments. So when you do something wrong, they'll tell you that you're moving as punishment, and they'll move you to another tank because they know how that makes an inmate feel. But they will repeatedly move me in Malice and with no questioning, with no reasoning, rather. And then sometimes I ask them why they repeatedly kept moving me because, you meet people and you get settled. People put things on the wall that's motivational. You clean your cell and you do different things. You get it organized. And then they kept moving me. So I questioned why they kept moving me. The guard said, get your SHIT and come the F out. And then everybody heard it. I said, well, why don't you just talk to me like my abuser said? It's like people to talk to me. Why don't you just call me the B word? And I think that I can't remember if he did it, but saying get your SHIT and get the F out, that is enough, even if he didn't say the B word. So he had no explanation to why he was moving me, and that's how I was treated and how I was talked to. So also doing this, they also withheld the phone. People were able to make calls on Sundays, and I could not place my free calls. The things that I like in commissary were always, they said that they were out. And then when I had no more commissary, then they said that then people had the items that I couldn't get when I had money on my books. So my money, they wouldn't give us towels. They would the small towels, and they would not give us socks. So I had to buy those items and different items. It was bizarre, or bras or panties. I've never known a jail to deprive inmates of bras, panties, and socks. They did. So in multiple different times when I was on my monthly, they didn't have panties on commissary either. I couldn't buy them. So nonetheless, they said they were out or some kind of glitch. So they on my monthly, like I said, it's usually heavy, that they would scam that they were out of panties. And then I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And I'm on my monthly, and they gave you these little disposable panties. It's just the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen. It just has psycho running the government all over it. So they scam like these fishnet disposable hospital panties. That's the only panties that they offer. And then when I was on my monthly, they were routinely out, leaving me trapped. And then it's unusually heavy, so it was like a disaster all the time. And then if you wash them, they wouldn't keep. So it was like feeling trapped behind bars. So nonetheless, this is what, so you can read your books. All of this is just to say that you can read your books, but I don't know if someone is going to jump. I have these traumatic experiences and, thoughts. Are they going to bust down the door because I'm reading this? You don't have to worry about it. I feel like the slaves back in the day. Is master going to find me because I'm reading this? Do I need to hide up under the covers in my own environment to read this book? I just want you to know what goes through my head. There's no one I can call. You've seen all these countless calls. No one, family, friends, no one, period. It's happened year after year. When he gets his mind made up, they're strategizing a false arrest is deliberate and strategizing scheme that there's no one, period, no matter where I call or go to hear my cries for help. They all ignore me and leave it in it to add insult to injury. Okay, this is what it's like being targeted.